All right, we want to move on now to what's going on in China. And there are some troubling signs that we are on a collision course over Taiwan. Now, Scott Ritter has written a really in-depth piece this morning on U.S.-China on this collision course. And let's throw this up here on the screen. So calls it U.S.-China on a collision course over Taiwan specifically. And saying Chinese officials have made it clear that their one China policy regarding Taiwan is founded on a constitutionally mandated principle of so-called peaceful reunification. And Chinese officials say it's as a measure of last resort would be war, only to be employed to prevent the fact of Taiwan's secession from China. But as Scott lays out in this piece, the United States is essentially stoking this, trying, in many ways, forcing their hand to get them to move towards a secessionist force.
So he lays out in this piece a bunch of sort of mea culpas, right, that the United States has been up to since the Biden administration took office. And, you know, it's hard to say because the United States continues to say that they are committed to an ambiguity when it comes to Taiwan, that we will do what makes China happy while also sort of being friendly with the Taiwanese government. Not acknowledging them, but acknowledging them. And Antony Blinken and President Biden have been making some missteps, but at the same time trying to hold the line, and that won't last us very long, right? And so it begs the question, I mean, President Trump, when he took office, one of the first things he did when he was elected was to take a congratulatory call from the president of Taiwan, and we thought,
Right.
Oh, okay, there's war on us, right? And that never happened. He got many passes for lack of diplomacy. So why do you think it's more important in this day and age than maybe the this sort of follies of President Trump?
Because I think now we're the United States, and as I spoke to a few experts on this over the weekend on China specifically, the United States is losing its hegemony, right? The United States, and all you need to do is look at the money situation.
But do you think, I mean, that was pretty clear diplomatically and internationally under President Trump. Do you think that people think, well, the Biden administration has more adults in the room, so we expect more?
I think maybe they do, but we heard from like the head of the Navy, like the United States is not prepared to fight a two-front war. So if we're going to really try to take on Russia, which we are, and at the same time going to take on China, which we are, I mean, placing aircraft carriers, destroyers in the South China Sea and trying to show superiority in the South China Sea.
Yes.
We are in many ways trying to fight a two-pronged war right now.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, just today, the United States was doing military exercises with South Korea to sort of push back against any weaponry that North Korea may have. Can we loop that in? Is it a while you're there situation, or would we have to then divert resources there as well? It's interesting that this all comes under the context of the Americas Conference, which is happening right now in Los Angeles. And many participants there are saying the United States is really not here. Like, they're phoning it in. They didn't do a great job of organizing it. They started to make these invitations and then the exclusions. World leaders didn't show up because it kind of looks like they're not showing up for these types of things.
Right, but the United States is focused on China specifically. So they don't care about Latin America. They care about what's happening in China. And as everything was unfolding with Russia, we were saying, hey, the real story here, of course, is China. And you see this now in some of the diplomatic rhetoric that Scott points out in this piece. Specifically, when Antony Blinken spoke last week and gave that speech that we covered here on the show, he says, quote, "We enjoy a strong unofficial relationship with Taiwan," emphasizing the, quote, U.S. commitment to the policy of strategic ambiguity. So, well, we're strong with Taiwan. We're not fully there yet where they are an independent country. Yet we're sending our special forces and training to Taiwan to make sure, and we're also sending weapons. We're also sending all sorts of training and technology to Taiwan. So, of course, we think that. We're sending our ships. Again, pay attention to what they do, not what they say, right? And what they're doing is they're sending training and special forces to Taiwan.
Well, the
they're
problem
sending ships
is
to
not
Taiwan.
that we are doing that on this show or other media hosts are paying attention to what they're doing and not saying, but it's also that world leaders are doing that, right? So we see Vladimir Putin in that soundbite saying, hey, we're watching what you do. We're going to retaliate, right? China does the same thing. And it's not just that they can pay attention to the news media. It's that, we know that China was responsible for one of the largest hacks of Google that ever happened, right? So they can
Right.
watch what is going on, not just in the news, but sort of in a more underhanded way. So it's more serious than all that.
Right. So Scott lays out that there's been this string of policy misstatements by Biden. When combined with the aggressive legislation being pursued in the halls of the Democrats by Tammy Duckworth, threatens to accomplish exactly what China has through its 2005 law said it would never tolerate: the emboldening of what Beijing views as a Taiwan independence movement in Taiwan and abroad. The Biden administration appears to be laying the groundwork for a conflict that China claims it doesn't want, but which the U.S., by accident or design, seems set to provoke. I think that's like the perfect ending to this. Seems set to provoke. And they have an opportunity to dial back this rhetoric, and they have an opportunity to say, hey, okay, we talk about sphere of influence, and China has a sphere of influence in the Indo-Pacific region, right? That's their backyard. In the same way that we have a sphere of influence under the Monroe Doctrine in the Western Hemisphere, which is hilarious, by the way. It's our own piece of paper, the Monroe Doctrine, written by
Yes.
James Monroe. It says no Eastern country or European power can set up shop in the Western Hemisphere. That's our sphere of influence.
Well, you would think, given that priority, that the United States might put a little bit more effort into the Americas Conference,
Right.
if that's so important to us.
Well, no, we don't care because we stepped all over them already. So we are the power, in Central. We are the power in the Americas, right? So if they, if you saw one of these countries rising to the level, even a number of years
That's
ago,
not clear to me as a foregone conclusion, though.
that one would rise strongly.
That
Venezuela was becoming a really strong country in the
Yes.
1980s until
look at all the sort of the intellectual power that's now in Argentina, the economic power that's now in Brazil. I don't think that underestimating the power of the Americas is a very smart gamble at this point.
No, but we'll do whatever we can to undermine them, of course. And that seems to be what we're doing at time and time again. And we'll get to that in a little bit later as we talk about Venezuela, trying to undermine them while we try to go get our oil from Saudi Arabia. So anyway, it appears we're trying to provoke, we're trying to fight a two-pronged war right now. Like as Scott points out, this collision course with China, while at the same time a collision course with Russia. And at the end of the day, it's going to lead to the destruction of Western countries. I don't see. Where's the collateral damage going to come? We've already seen, actually, if you want to look at economically, the collateral damage in this, and it comes to us at the hands of Africa. It
Yes.
comes to us at the hands of countries that are sandwiched in these sanctions, right? So economically, we've already seen the collateral damage. What happens now? The physical damage to these countries. Where's that going to come next? And
Yes, and I don't want to raise panic alarms, but at the same time, how long can Americans feel that war doesn't happen on their own soil, right? While the Western leaders are not exactly doing things to ensure that.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.